Before borders, before nations claimed these sands with ink and wire, there were the Keltamashek, the people of the Vale. They did not name this desert, they became it. For 4,000 years, the Sahara was not a barrier to be crossed. It was a kingdom to be read, every dune a sentence, every wind a dialect. The Touareg did not survive the desert, they authored it. No other civilization on earth chose the Sahara as home and thrived, not as survivors clinging to oases, not as wanderers lost between one place and another, but as masters, as architects of a world invisible to outsiders, a civilization that never needed walls. Because the desert itself was the wall, they are called the Blue Men, not for the sky above them, but for the indigo dye that bleeds into their skin from the cloth they wear. The Tagelmust, that great wrapped veil, is not merely clothing, it is identity, rank, protection. A Touareg man's face is sacred, shown only to family, never to strangers. The veil is not a hiding, it is an armor of dignity. In the Hoggar Mountains of southern Algeria, the Ahaggar tribe held dominion for centuries. Warriors, traders, poets, navigating a world Europeans would not dare enter. The indigo was not merely aesthetic, it was a declaration. To wear blue in the Sahara was to say, I know this place, I belong here, I am not afraid. The dye stained permanently. Skin, hands, the creases of the face. A man and his cloth became one thing, the desert's own color pressed into human skin. When you saw a veiled figure rise from behind a dune, blue against gold, you were not seeing a man emerge from the desert. You were seeing the desert rise and take a human shape. In most of the ancient world, lineage followed the father. Among the Touareg, it follows the mother. A woman's bloodline determines heritage, inheritance, nobility. Touareg women do not wear the veil. They own the tents, they own the herds. They choose their husbands and may end marriages without shame or ceremony. They compose poetry. They receive guests. They set the tone of the camp, and they play the imzad, a one-stringed violin carved from a gourd, strung with horsehair, played only by women, said to give warriors courage before battle, not by drums or war cries, but by a single woman, seated, playing one string in the dark. When anthropologists first encountered this structure, they called it unusual. The Touareg called it obvious. In a desert where survival requires every person's full power, to diminish half your people was not a moral failure. It was a strategic one. The Sahara does not permit that kind of waste. Gold, salt, ivory, ostrich feathers, enslaved people. For a millennium, the wealth of West Africa flowed north, and it all passed through Touareg hands. They did not merely escort these caravans, they taxed them, they protected them, they were the law of the Saharan highway. A caravan that tried to cross the Hoggar without Touareg blessing did not arrive. Routes that appeared on no European map. The Touareg navigated by stars, by sand color, by the smell of distant wells rising on morning air. Their camels, the Mahara, were bred for speed, not burden. Desert war horses, capable of crossing 600 kilometers in 5 days. This was not survival. This was empire. An empire with no throne room, no treasury, no written laws, only the vast memory of its people and the camel tracks that never disappeared from the sand. Timbuktu, Gat, Agadez, Tamanrasset, names that meant wealth, passage, safety, because the Touareg guaranteed them. In the world of trans-Saharan trade, their word was the only currency that never lost its value. The French came in 1902. They called it pacification, The Touareg called it invasion. At the Battle of Tit, French forces slaughtered a Ahaggar raiding party, nearly 100 warriors, their weapons stripped, their camels taken, their dignity left in the desert sand. It was the beginning of a long unraveling. The colonial border drawn in 1905 severed Touareg territory across 5 nations: Algeria, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Libya. A single people cut into fragments by cartographers who had never felt Saharan sand between their fingers. The roots that had sustained them for 1,000 years, closed, taxed, rerouted. Their world was partitioned into absence. The wells still existed. The stars still held their positions. The sand still remembered every step. But the permission to move, the permission to be themselves across that landscape, had been taken, not by desert, not by time, by a pen, on a table, in a room where the Sahara was just a beige space between 2 colored territories on a map. They rose up, again and again. 1916, 1963, 1990, 2006, 2012. The Touareg rebelled against states that owned their land, but never knew it. Each uprising was crushed, each truce signed on paper that blew away. What the world called terrorism, the Touareg called memory. The Algerian Touareg, the Ahaggar, the Ahaggar, chose a different path. Not silence, not surrender, something harder, cultural persistence. Tamashek, their tongue, one of the oldest living languages in Africa, is still spoken. Tifinagh, their script, older than Arabic, older than the Roman alphabet in its lineage, is still carved into rock, still taught to children, still written in love letters on goat skin. A people is not only its armies. Sometimes resistance wears a poet's face. Sometimes survival sounds like a woman playing imzad in a tent, to children who do not yet know they are inheriting a world. Every word spoken in Tamashek today is an act of defiance that looks from the outside like an ordinary conversation. Today, in the wilaya of Tamanrasset, deep in Algeria's south, the Tuareg still move, still brew 3 glasses of tea, the first bitter as death, the second sweet as life, the third gentle as love. You do not refuse any of the 3. Still gather for Ahal, the night courtship ritual, where young men and women exchange songs, riddles, and glances by moonlight. The old art of desire, conducted with the precision of ceremony. The world has tried to settle them, to school them, to make them legible on census forms. Some have gone, some have stayed. The ones who stayed carry something that cannot be taxed or bordered, a way of seeing the desert not as empty, but as full, full of names, full of roots, full of a civilization that never needed walls to know it was a civilization. The Sahara is the largest hot desert on earth. Empires tried to own it. Science tried to map it. Modernity tried to cross it in hours on a plane. None of them knew it the way the Touareg knew it. And somewhere in it now, a child wrapped in indigo, barefoot on warm stone, already knows the names of all the stars.